What's up, YouTube? How's everybody doing? Pull up the Instagram feed. All right, we are live. What's going on, guys? How's everybody doing out there? Welcome to another episode of Semen Retention Talk. I'm Johnathan White, and I'm here to help you master your sexual energy so that you can magnetize your ideal life. And today, I'm going to be talking about manifesting with sexual energy. So this has been a very powerful experience in my life, is learning this and working with this, this concept of manifestation, being able to consciously create what you want in your life. And the fact is that we're all creators. Everything that's around us, we're creating. The situation that we're in, if you stop and take a look at everything that's happening in your life, where are you at right now, what's around you, what kind of people are in your life, everything is a consequence of your actions, your thoughts, the things that you're acting on. You are creating your own reality. Also, your beliefs influence this greatly as well. And so the problem is that for most people, this is completely unconscious, because whatever you focus on, it grows and eventually it crystallizes and manifests. It becomes the physical world. Everything originates as a thought, a feeling, an iPhone, for example, that was first just an idea in someone's head. And then they went through the process to bring that into the physical realm. So, manifestation, it starts with an idea and that becomes a feeling. And that eventually there's a bit of a time lapse, right? But eventually that crystallizes and manifests here in the physical reality, it becomes something fixed. So again, the problem is that most people are completely unconscious. They're functioning on this conditioning that they inherited from their parents, from society, from religions. It's often very limited beliefs about who they are, limited beliefs about what they can truly accomplish. And this causes people to get stuck and to be stuck in this, again, these low vibrational programs of feeling lack, feeling like, you're not able to get anywhere in your life. For me, some really difficult struggles were around ideas of lack and self-esteem, not feeling like I was good enough to, accomplish what I wanted to accomplish, not good enough to be in an amazing relationship. Also feelings of lack around money, finances, feeling like there wasn't enough, for me to have, an abundant income and things like that. And so it's important to understand that your beliefs completely shape your reality. And when you're not focused on what you actually want in your life, most people are focused on their fears. They're focused on their limitations. They're focused on these low vibrational things, right? Most people are driven by fear and things like that, right? So instead of functioning that space, that just brings you into more of those things, those low vibrational things. But when you're instead able to focus on things that inspire you, things that excite you, things that motivate you, right? Get clear about what you want in your life. You start writing these things down, start visualizing in your mind. How would it feel to accomplish these things? How would it feel if you had that in this moment, right? That is the first step to manifesting something. And then of course you have to act on it, right? So here's a little practice you can do is write down maybe 3 things or more that you want in your life. Don't worry about how realistic it seems. Just think big. What do you truly want more than anything? Maybe 3 things. How much money do you want to make? Where do you want to live? What kind of relationship do you want? What health do you want to have? What kind of physical shape do you want to be in? What spiritual unfoldment, accomplishment do you want in your life, right? So write these things down. Get clear on that. And then every morning or every evening, or both, you sit and focus on these things and feel like you've already accomplished that. Feel that tangible feeling in your body that's already happened. It's there. You're in that state, feeling that gratitude, that excitement, that vibrational quality of it. That is what communicates to the life force, this is what I want. When you're saying, oh, well, I would like, $10,000 in the next few weeks, that command goes, it's the future. You're talking about the future. The future is an illusion. Creation is happening right here, right now. So when you're projecting into the future, it never happens because again, the future is an illusion. So it's about feeling that space right where you are right now, feeling like it's present moment already accomplished. That's the first step, right? And then you'll start to have these inspirations in your life. You'll have this idea, like, I feel like I should, call this person or go to this place or something. You start to have these inspirations, and now you have to start following these things because, again, doing the sort of yin practice, just manifesting, doing the manifestation, visualization, things like that, setting things up. That's just the first part, but you have to take action. You have to work towards these things as well, right? So how does sexual energy fit into all this? This is what really unlocks what I'm talking about. So I was into this stuff for a while, kind of law of attraction type stuff, and it just wasn't really working for me though. I wasn't really getting anywhere with it. But once I started practicing sexual kung fu, once I started consciously cultivating my sexual energy, harnessing my sexual energy, meditating with that, moving it through my body, that's what really boosted my ability to create, my ability to manifest, because sexual energy is our creative energy. It's the vital essence that's birthing everything. Everything in the universe is being created by sexual energy. When you think about it, your body is in a constant sexual process. Your body is made of sex, meaning the cells of your body are constantly reproducing. They're multiplying. When that process stops, it's called death. So that's a sexual process, is what's creating our body. So cultivating your sexual energy, you're getting in harmony with that process and you're amplifying it. And again, our sexual energy is our creative energy. But the problem is that most people, through conditioning, through their experiences, they only know how to send their sexual energy out of their body. For most men, that's their only experience of sexuality is discharging their sexual energy from their body, ejaculating it out. You have no reservoir of energy to create with when you're constantly doing that. So the first step is to build up that energy, rebuild that supply of vital sexual essence. And now you have this reservoir of energy to create with. But again, that's just the first step. You need to be able to circulate this qi, this sexual energy throughout the body. This is what sexual kung fu is all about. Opening up the energy channels of the body, which are like rivers where energy expresses itself in. Keeping that sexual energy fluid, you start to direct it through your body and changing the shape of it, changing the form of it, supercharging yourself with the sexual energy. And now you have that sexual power. So whatever you're doing, you're pouring this sexual energy into. And again, this is what really unlocks manifesting in your life, is being in control of your sexual energy and having a healthy supply of sexual essence. When you're living in depletion, when you're in patterns of depletion, when you're addicted to porn, for men, you're excessively ejaculating. It's difficult to create the life that you want because you're depleted. You're in a depleted state. So you need to rebuild your core energy, rebuild your chi, which becomes the foundation which you're creating your reality with. So again, it all comes down to being conscious, having the awareness. What am I doing? What am I doing with my time? What is my daily routine like? Do I spend 2 to 3 hours watching Netflix? It's probably not going to be very good for your development if you're trying to get somewhere. So start managing your time. Start changing your habits. Get inspired. Start studying. Start learning. Start growing. And start applying everything else I'm talking about, cultivating your sexual energy, getting focused on what it is that you want. And I guarantee your life will completely transform. All right, guys. So I'm going to answer some questions now. Some questions coming in. So feel free to send any questions. I'm going to answer these. Okay. Advice how to not get sexually transmitted infections when dating, hooking up. Well, obviously, you want to be careful about this. You can, make sure you get a test and have your partner get a test as well before you sleep with them, because this is a risk if you're, sleeping around a lot. Obviously, using protection, using condoms and things like that. So, yeah. What's chi exactly? Chi is subtle energy. It's life force. It's what's animating this world. It's like, what's the difference between a dead body and a live body? Obviously, there's a soul, there's a spirit in there, but chi as well is flowing through. It's prana. It's the force. It's the key, as in Reiki. So it's this subtle. It's like electricity. We have electricity in our houses. It's animating our appliances. Without the electricity, the appliances aren't any good. Same thing with our bodies. And really all of the universe. Chi is what's powering us. Chi is flowing through us. And it may seem like a mystical term to some, but the fact is that science is starting to catch up with this, with understanding of subtle energy. And this is something that's been known for many ancient cultures. And it's really, for example, the Chinese developed there's systems of Chinese medicine, acupuncture, qigong, all based on qi theory, all based on flows and changes in energy. So it's a science, it really is. And you can feel it very simply by starting to cultivate it, doing some qigong practices. So qi is, it's the life force. Does prostate pulse when you have orgasm without ejaculation? It depends what type of orgasm. Usually for prostate's pulsating, then it's a physical peak orgasm, which still tends to cause that drop in energy afterwards. But during a full body non-ejaculatory, more energetic orgasm, there's no pulsation of the prostate. So there's different types of orgasm for men, different types of non-ejaculatory orgasms. Names of some recent Taoist masters. Okay, so as far as like current Taoist masters, Michael Wynn is great. I studied with Michael Wynn in depth. He's definitely a master of a lot of this stuff. Montauk Chia, he's well known. Bruce Francis, he's got some great materials. Damo Mitchell. Who else? My Tai Chi teacher, Jude Trapani, who I'm releasing a video. I did an interview with him, so I'm going to be posting that soon. He's definitely a Taoist master. Who else? Lauren Johnson, one of my teachers. There's a lot. There's just a few. Lam Cam Chuen. So just to name some names. Sometimes during sex, I unconsciously hold my breath and it causes me to release. What are your constant breathing methods during sex? You just keep breathing. Breathe into your belly. Deep breath, deep exhale. Just keep that breath fluid throughout sex, because it first of all, it gives your mind something to focus on. That's the thing. And someone else was asking about anxiety during sex. So this is the most simple thing: is stop. So get out of your head, get into your body. And the breath is a very simple way to do this. Deep belly breathing. And you want to practice this outside of the context of sex. So, just spend 5-10 minutes during the day practicing deep, slow breaths in and out of the abdomen. And that will help you to last longer during sex. Just a very simple method right away, because again, you focus your mind within your body, which keeps your energy a little more contained. When you're focusing on your partner, all the excitement out here, it starts to pull the energy out of you. You get this uprising excitement, which leads to ejaculation. So staying calm, staying focused. You've got to be a Zen master during sex. And on another level, the deep, slow breathing activates your parasympathetic nervous system, which keeps you in that state, that calm state. Because when you go into the sympathetic nervous system, that's what ejaculation is linked to, the fight or flight response. So by staying relaxed, staying calm, and deep belly breathing, you're able to last a lot longer during sex. So it's just a matter of, again, being able to keep your breath deep and fluid throughout sex. And that will help you last longer, first of all, but it will also help you experience much more pleasure, relaxing and allowing the body to, allowing the sexual energy to move through the whole body. An exercise to straighten the pelvic floor. Do you mean strengthen the pelvic floor? Ejaculated 5 times in a span of 3 days. A few days back, and I feel horrible. Well, eat some, have some maca root, have some goji berries, do some meditation, do some qigong, build your qi back up. How long does it take to achieve your first non-ejaculatory orgasm? This is going to vary from person to person. Depends how ingrained you are in your sexual practices, and there's a lot of factors. But in general, when you're doing underlying work, kind of foundational work, opening up your energy body, clearing old patterns, this helps you progress much quicker into a different experience of sex without ejaculation. That's why in my 6-week course, there's a lot of foundational work that a lot of people often overlook, because it's extremely important to gain the sensitivity, to open up the whole body, to get that full body orgasm, non-ejaculatory experience during sex. So it's difficult to give out timelines for how long it takes to achieve this. For some men, they do it in a few weeks. Like a lot of men, they take my course and by the end of it, they're having these. But for some men, it takes much longer. It takes months. Do I like Shilajit? Yeah, I do like Shilajit. I take it from time to time, but you have to be careful where you're getting it from, because there's some companies that it's not very pure and it tests high in lead and things like that. So you have to be careful. Yeah, it's a Jackson guitar. It's an 80s butt rock guitar. I just got that like a week and a half ago. Been tearing it up. Got the Floyd Rose Bridge. It's a beast. After practicing retention by reverse ejaculation, is there a danger of not being able to ejaculate outwardly for procreation? Well, it's not a reverse ejaculation. That would imply that the fluid's moving somewhere. The fluid's not moving when you're, doing non-ejaculatory orgasms. But I don't believe that there's a danger in not ever being able to ejaculate again. I've never heard of this happening to anyone, even people who've been retaining for years. So I wouldn't worry about that. When doing the Dantian building exercise, how do you avoid getting your pelvic floor too tense when doing the contractions over time? So this is an exercise I have on my YouTube channel to build this, basically your energetic battery, the lower Dantian in the belly center. So there's a couple things. You can squeeze very, very gently, very slight. It's almost more mind power there than actual physical squeezing. So just very slight squeezing. Or you can leave out the physical squeezing completely and just use your mind. So you do the inhale, and as you hold the breath, just feel in your mind, engage your mind in that area of your body, the pelvic floor, and feel energetically like you're squeezing there and release that. How do you transform the sexual energy from not having sex for a long time? Blue balls is killing me. Blue balls means your energy is stuck in your genitals. So you need to move it, circulate it. That's what I'm always talking about. You got to keep that chi moving. So the remedy for this is you need to do some energetic practices. This is why I don't recommend doing semen retention unless you're doing internal practices to circulate the sexual energy, or else, you're probably not going to have a very good time. So microcosmic orbit meditation, so you're on my YouTube channel, that is the pathway to open and work with so you can move the sexual energy through. And then testicle breathing practice is how you move the sexual energy out of the genitals throughout the body. I have those on YouTube videos. So check those out. Okay, and so someone's asking about exercise to strengthen the pelvic floor. Basically, okay, so first of all, pelvic floor development is important, but you don't want to focus too much on strengthening the pelvic floor. So Kegels are how you strengthen the pelvic floor, right? But if it's too strong, if it's too tight and tense, you're going to have premature ejaculation. I did this to myself, doing Kegels like crazy every single day, and then my pelvic floor was really tight, but I noticed it made my penis a lot more sensitive during sex. I was like, well, I thought that's what Kegels are supposed to overcome. So the remedy to this is relaxing the pelvic floor. So reverse Kegels. So regular Kegels are like, if you have to pee and you're holding it back, that's the muscle you squeeze, right? In the pelvic floor. That's a Kegel. So you strengthen it by squeezing that throughout the day, holding it for longer and longer periods of time. But more importantly, doing a reverse Kegel as well, which is a pushing motion. It's like if you have to urinate and you're pushing it out, that's reverse Kegel. You feel your pelvic floor expand outward. So you want to do Kegels and reverse Kegels together. And take a day off in between doing Kegels. But reverse Kegels, you can do every day. But when you're doing reverse Kegels, don't push too hard. It's kind of a gentle pushing outward and feeling like you're relaxing, expanding the pelvic floor. And that helps to really loosen up your pelvic floor so you don't have that hypertension down there, which causes premature ejaculation. Will doing breathing exercises while inverted on an inversion table work for raising that energy? Not necessarily, because it's not so much about gravity. It's about being having an openness in your energy channels and being able to circulate the energy consciously rather than relying on gravity. Maybe that helps a little bit, but overall you want to develop the skill to do that, in whatever position you're in. All right, so just answering questions. Feel free to send any questions in. What are some techniques you use to keep sex intense but not overstimulating? I think that's a good question, because this is the thing with very physical-oriented sex. One of my teachers calls it sports sex, where you're just thrusting away, trying to imitate porn movies. It's it's fun, it's passionate, but it quickly wears out your nervous system. You quickly become numb and desensitized to that type of stimulation. So it's not really great to do it for long periods of time. It doesn't become very enjoyable after a period of time. So it's good to vary your speed during sex. So yeah, you can have periods of very fast, intense, active, thrusting, but you want to stop and slow it way down and just, very slow stimulation and focus on breathing, relaxing your body, make some sound, release some moans. That helps to move the energy throughout your body. And also when you're doing the sexual kung fu practices where you kind of stop for a little bit and raise the sexual energy through the body, you move it through the channels, and you get into this full body orgasm state, it makes the experience very intensified. Okay, here's a question from Instagram. How to stop nightly ejaculations and dreams. So wet dreams, right? This is pretty common for men trying semen retention after a period of time they ejaculate in their sleep. I talk about this a lot, but I'll give a quick overview again. The most common causes of wet dreams are unfulfilled sexual desire during the day. When you go to sleep, your subconscious is like, oh, I'm really horny, and he passed out. He hasn't been letting us have sex. So I'm going to have this orgasm in sleep. So you have this, ejaculatory orgasm in your sleep. So being able to bring your sexual desires to completion without, necessarily having sex, possibly, or definitely without ejaculating. And you do this by working with the microcosmic orbit, doing that meditation, testicle breathing, moving the sexual energy through the body. So it moves through the body, it circulates, transforms, and reaches a state of completion by moving and circulating the body instead of needing to be released outwardly, right? So that's a big one. So stop, being so sexually stimulated during the day if that's an issue for you, or being able to at least redirect that arousal and bring it to completion without ejaculating, which is what sexual kung fu is all about. Also, it's very common for basically getting too hot at night to cause a wet dream. So make sure your room's cool enough. You don't have like a really heavy blanket on you, things like that. Take a cold shower before going to sleep. Don't eat really close to going to bed. And also having a lot of tension in the pelvic floor can cause nocturnal emissions as well. So use reverse Kegels and practices to relax your pelvic floor to release tension from there. Is there any real danger of prostate cancer with semen retention? Not really any more than there is normally. Here's the thing, people talk about this a lot, and it's kind of the myth that ejaculation prevents prostate cancer for a man. Well, when you look at the fact that 50% of men develop prostate issues, and I'm sure that more than 50% of men are consistently ejaculating, clearly it's not that effective of a remedy. So if the only thing you're doing to care for your prostate is ejaculating, then obviously you don't care that much about it, right? So you have to be a little more holistic with it. What's your diet like? Are you eating toxic foods? Are you eating pesticides, GMOs, things like that? Are you drinking water, clean water from a good source? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you exercising, keeping your blood circulating through your body? And simply, you can do an acupressure massage of your prostate by sitting on a tennis ball. You take a tennis ball, you set it under the pelvic floor and sit on it. It pushes up into the prostate area and gives you an acupressure massage. So if you do all those things, take saw palmetto. That's a great supplement for men's prostate, basically. So these are the ways you care for your prostate. If you're just doing ejaculation as, thinking that's caring for your prostate, then you're not addressing the issue very holistically. How many minutes do you need to masturbate to have full body orgasm? Well, in general, I would say from my experience, for me, it takes at least 15 to 20 minutes usually to get into a full body orgasmic state. So obviously being able to train yourself to last longer is important. It's much more likely to happen during sex with a partner as well too, but you can get into some very orgasmic states all by yourself as well. So, but relaxation is key, not being too goal oriented. If you're trying to trying to force yourself, like I'm going to have an orgasm, then, a non-ejaculatory orgasm, then it's less likely to happen. You have to be able to surrender, just feel what you're feeling and amplify those sensations, just feel the energy moving through your body, and you start to get this very deep state of full body orgasm. Okay, do I recommend having a lot of sexual activity with a partner if both people want to, or is sexual withholding and redirecting part of my program? No, it is not part of my program to like be celibate, basically, like withhold from sex. You know, how often, it really comes down to you. It comes down to how healthy you are, how healthy your partner is. But in general, having sex regularly is very good for you. It's very healthy if you're doing the practices to, especially for men, if men are regulating their ejaculation, because if a man's ejaculating every time he has sex, that's going to deplete him. But when a man's having non-ejaculatory sex, and then it's very, very beneficial, very youthful. And this was a concept of ancient Chinese. They had basically medical sexology. They would prescribe certain lovemaking positions, to do several times a day. But the thing was, the man couldn't ejaculate, right? And so it can be very, very good for your health to have it quite frequently if you want, as long as you're doing the practices to move the sexual energy throughout the body. What do I use for natural deodorant? I use deodorant from a company called Arnold. It's non-toxic, no aluminum, no chemicals in it that, causes cancer, things like that. Are there nuts, fruits, vegetable, which I would avoid or take less as a man? Heard that certain high protein foods cause imbalances for men. For men, you want to avoid phytoestrogens. So soy, soy is one of the most genetically modified foods on the planet. I would avoid unfermented soy products, so like tofu, soy milk, things like that. It boosts your estrogen as a man and lowers your testosterone. So avoid soy, avoid gluten, wheat, things like that. Lots of refined carbs, you want to cut those out. But as far as high protein foods, I haven't had any issues myself. I have a high protein diet because I'm very active. I work out and things like that. So, but you have to really listen to your body. You don't want to eat from your brain. Like people often they read all this information about theoretical information about diets, but not understanding that diet is not a good fit for their body, and they're not listening to their body and what their body needs. So it's about becoming sensitive to what is good for your own body. There's no single diet that's good for everyone, basically. When doing some of the energetic practices like deep earth pulsing, I get pain in the kidneys. Could it be a sign of blockages or negative energy that needs to be releasing? It probably shows that you do have some kidney stuff going on, which is pretty common. So look up kidney yin, basically building kidney yin energy. There's certain foods you can eat, certain supplements you can take. Try to cut stress from your life, try to get enough sleep and things like that. Is there any side effects to retention for beginners? Retention and breathing for beginners? Not exactly sure what you mean by that. Some of the negative effects you can have by doing these practices are, first of all, if you're just retaining, you're not doing any internal practice, you're very likely to develop energy stagnance where you feel angry, frustrated, irritable, you have blue balls, things like that, meaning your sexual energy is just stuck in your balls, right? This is very common for men doing semen retention without knowing what they're doing. They're not circulating the energy or really using it. They're just building it up, and it creates a lot of congestion. So circulating the energy is the remedy to that. And as far as cultivating sexual energy, the issues that can arise are, the fact that sexual energy, it glues things together, bonds things together, and it amplifies things. So if you haven't done the foundational work, which I teach in the program, basically working to clear out negative emotions, negative patterns, and things like that before you start cultivating sexual energy, then you can be kind of throwing gasoline on the fire. So you can amplify negative emotions, amplify unconscious patterns if you start putting sexual energy into these things. That's why I teach it in a certain foundational way. So first, you learn how to manage your energy, release negative emotions and imbalances before you start getting into working with the super high voltage sexual energy. So, yeah. Do you need to be doing semen retention for a while to learn full body orgasm, or even if you did ejaculate the last day, can you learn to have full body orgasm? Generally, you need a certain amount of sexual charge, we could say, to really get into those high orgasmic states. It depends how healthy you are, depends how quick you recover from ejaculation. For some men, the next day they'd be able to have one. But for some men, it takes several days to get to that point. Okay, now that I mentioned chemicals, do I not recommend using baby oil or even lubricant for self-cultivation? Don't use anything that has toxic chemicals in it. A lot of products that are for infants and babies have horrific chemicals in them, right? So look at the ingredients, and if you see a bunch of chemicals that you can't pronounce, it's probably toxic. I only use coconut oil for sexual lubrication, basically, right? So only put natural things. If you put all these chemicals into your genitals, it can cause erectile dysfunction. It can cause cancers down there. It can cause infertility. So be very careful. Whatever you're putting on your skin, you might as well be eating. The skin absorbs the things you put on it. So be careful about the products you are using, basically. I feel like my adrenals take a hit after orgasm. Do all the glands get discharged after orgasm? If you are more or less in a more deficient state, then yes. It's kind of like this chain. The glands, so your core glands at the bottom, the sexual glands, right? The gonads, so testicles for men, ovaries for women, the prostate for men as well. This is the core glands of the body. And when they're depleted, they're going to pull from everything going up the body, right? Which causes issues for your hormonal balance and things like that. So if you're in a state of depletion, then yes, an ejaculation is going to really deplete your glands, basically. Like the body has to pull resources from all over. But once you, once you rebuild your core energy, you practice retention for a while, you start learning these practices to circulate sexual energy through the body, then you can have an ejaculation here and there and it doesn't really affect you as much. Thoughts on polyamory? I think, for some people, this is great for them. I'm not promoting like everyone should be monogamous or everyone should be polyamorous. Everyone has different needs. Whatever makes you happy, it makes you feel supported and, helps you achieve your highest destiny. That's perfect for you. The issue you can run into with having multiple partners is the fact that everyone you sleep with, you're absorbing their energy and their karmic patterns, even their ancestral patterns. Sex is a very intimate exchange. You're downloading a lot of information to your field from that person because it's a deep connection. So you shouldn't, I don't recommend you have sex with someone who you wouldn't want to become, because that's what happens. You start to exchange energy and information with each other. So when you have multiple partners, one of the things you can run into is that you're constantly processing all these things from other people. I mean, let's face it, a lot of people in this world are very imbalanced, right? So when you're constantly working with multiple partners, you're just constantly being bombarded with all of their emotions, their baggage, basically, right? So you're creating a lot more work for yourself, basically. So if you're okay with that, it's fine. It's just, it's important to understand that dynamic if you're going to be in a polyamorous lifestyle. Which parts of the body generally have the most trapped negative energy that you use the 6 healing sounds to help release? It's going to be different for everyone. Most people have a lot of heat in their heads. This false yang sort of pattern. It's known as in Chinese medicine, where because we spend so much time on screens, electronics, the energy rises up into the head and gets stuck here. You have headaches, tense shoulders, things like that, which is often connected to liver and heart chi. So most people have a lot of congestion in their heart space, especially men. Liver, I would say heart, liver, and kidneys typically are what most people have issues with. But it's often a combination of everything, really. So it's difficult to say for everyone. Is there any side effects for the Angio method? So I've been talking about this. This is something I discovered in the past few months. Angio method is a method this guy just created, basically a workout for your penis to develop your blood vessels and have better erections. And I've had really great results with it, so I've been talking about it. For what I understand, if you're doing it properly, you're doing it correctly, there's minimal side. not really any side effects, right? Because it's a pretty gentle method. You're just encouraging more blood flow in your penis. But if you're overtraining, meaning you're doing it every day, you're not taking days off, just like working out at the gym, then that's when you may have some issues. Glowing is solely from semen retention or other practices as well. Well, I mean, I live a very holistic lifestyle. Semen retention is just one aspect of my life and how I keep myself healthy, energized, and balanced. I eat healthy. I drink very clean water. I spend time in nature. I charge in the sun. I get enough sleep. I don't eat toxic foods. I do hours of qigong and meditation every day. So I charge myself up in a lot of ways, basically. Why is it so hard to avoid ejaculation more than a couple of days? Because you haven't quite shifted your sexual habits yet, right? So it takes a bit of process. It's a bit of a process for men to release this addiction to excessive ejaculation. Often it means that you need more fulfilling things in your life. You need more work, not necessarily more work, but more like creative work, more meaningful things for you to put your energy into. Because when you're not living a productive and creative, fulfilling lifestyle, then you just have this buildup of energy that's not going anywhere, and you feel like you need to release it, which most men do through ejaculation. So instead of releasing your inner tension that way, start circulating throughout your body, get productive in your life, start studying things, start learning new things, learn a musical instrument, develop your skills, things like that. So when you're doing these things, you're starting to circulate your creativity and your energy into different things in your life. Benefits of getting sun on genitals. Will that method help in penis lengthening as well? I don't know if it'll help you in penis lengthening, but sun exposure is very important. We get vitamin D from the sun, from exposing our skin to the sun. And studies have shown that getting sunlight on your genitals for men, it can boost testosterone levels up to 200%. So I try to get full body sun as much as I can. Obviously, if you're like really fair skinned, you want to limit your sun exposure, start with a small amount of time and gradually build up as you build that natural resistance to any harmful radiation from the sun. But we need the sun. It's very, very important. Most people living in the city are vitamin D deficient, which compromises their immune system, their hormonal balance. They feel stressed out. They don't sleep well. So getting sun is very important. Thoughts on taking tongkat Ali and horny goatweeds? They can be beneficial. Tongkat Ali is a natural testosterone booster, but it's only if you need it. Like if you feel you're low testosterone, low sexual energy, then sure, you can take these things. But if you already have a high level of sexual energy, taking these things can imbalance you, right? So that's what herbalism is based on, balance. There's no single supplement that every person should take. How many times a day can I do sexual transmutation? I'm not sure what your definition of sexual transmutation is. Are you talking about like directly having sex or just moving sexual energy throughout your body? Kind of depends. Able to control the urge of ejaculating for the first time. Just want to say thank you. Awesome. That's great. Great, brother. Great work. After taking some plant entheogens a while ago, my desire for porn and ejaculation disappeared. Has anyone reported similar experience with this? These plant entheogens, they can be beneficial, in that they do shift your energetic patterns and open you up to new ones. You just don't want to overdo these things. Is maca safe for everyday use? I feel really energetic on it. It's pretty safe. Just for me, I only take it if I feel like I need, more yang energy. But in times when I'm feeling very yang, feeling very fiery and stimulated, then I will not take maca, or else it imbalances me, basically. Past my anger phase, and I've noticed that my observation skills of self have skyrocketed, plus dream states are vivid. I remember my dreams, full body sun. Yeah. So it's all a process, you know. That's the thing is like with semen retention, again, it's all about circulating the energy. It's keeping it going. It's not a stopping of anything. You know, when you focus on, oh, I need to stop ejaculating, I need to stop, you know, masturbating, stop having sex. It's not about stopping things. It's about redirecting. Whenever you stop the flow of life force in your body, you're going to have problems. This is the cause of disease, right? Is a blockage of energy. So for me, semen retention wasn't about stopping anything. It was simply creating a new expression of it. So an upward expression of my sexual energy in my body instead of an explosion of semen out my penis. All right, guys, I'm gonna jump off here in a bit. Let's do a few more questions here. What techniques can I use to feel and control the exchange of energy when having sex? Well, you can use your mind to guide the flow of energy, but it really helps to have kind of a foundation. You know, it's difficult to control sexual energy, arouse sexual energy when you don't have any other energetic skills, like jumping right into that. It's overwhelming for most people. So this is why I train a bit progressively. You start with non-sexual practices like Qigong. You're just moving your regular non-aroused energy through your body. This develops your sensitivity. It starts to create pathways in your body for energy to flow in. So once you transition to aroused sexual energy work, you already have basically a pathway for that energy to move. And it's a lot more effortless, basically. Is it normal to not sleep well or to be not getting enough sleep on semen retention? It may mean that you're overstimulated. You have too much yang energy. You know, there's different reasons for it, but if this is the case, then you want to have more yin. Make sure you're circulating that energy, grounding, spending time in nature, calm time, cold showers, things like that. You know, avoid screens before going to sleep. Avoid stimulating things close to bed. All right, guys, thanks for joining me today. Have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week, and I will see you guys same time next week.